So let us look at the end of chapter question. So let us wrap up the chapter by looking at the end of chapter questions. For those that have attempted it, that's the way to go. And you see wherever you went wrong or if you got it right. So whenever I have a question in an exam, whenever I'll go straight to the requirements and see what they require me to do. The first requirement is to classify each cost as fixed, variable, or mixed using the patient days as the activity driver. Use the high or low method to separate mixed cost into fixed and variable. The administrator of the maternity wing has estimated that the center will have an average of 2,000 patient days per month. If the wing is to be operated as a non-profit organization, how much will it need to charge per patient day? Assuming the wing averaged 2.5 patient day per month, how much would need to be charged per day for the wing to cover its cost? Explain why the charge per day decreased as the activity output increased. So let us now look at the question. Madaiso Medical Clinic offers a number of specialized medical services. The clinic recently added 20-bed maternity wings. Since the clinic has no experience with inpatient maternity services, it decided to operate the wing for 2 months before determining how much to charge per patient day on ongoing basis. As a temporary measure, it adopted a patient day charge of 10,000, an amount equal to the fees charged by a hospital specialized in maternity care in the city. The initial per day charge was quoted to patients entered the wing during the first 2 months, with the assurance that if the actual operating cost justified, the charge could be reduced. The maternity wing opens on 1 January 20x9. During the month of January, the wing had 2,100 patient days of activity. During the month of February, the activity was 225 2,250 patient days. Cost for the two levels of activity output as follows. So we have this. So we have patient days in the first month, January, with 2,100, and in February, 2,250. So we are seeing that patient day is the cost unit that they are using. We talked about cost unit being a unit of product or services where cost can be established. So for them to come up with a cost, they are using patient day. They are charging per patient per day, not just per patient, because other patient, if they are charging per patient, it means that those that stay longer in the hospital, right, would be charged less. But they are saying that they'll charge you per patient and by per day you stay in the hospital. So that's the cost unit. So we are seeing all this cost. So let us talk about the first. They're telling us to classify between fixed, variable, and mixed. So before we classify, let us just talk about remind each other about the characteristics of this cost. So we have fixed costs. We know that there are two. Total fixed cost is constant, right? Or does not change with change in activity level. So that's the first characteristic. While fixed cost per unit will decrease when activity level increases. So we came up with two graphs, right? I'll just draw them on one. So the one for total cost will be like this. Fixed cost, right? Total fixed cost will be the same. While the one for fixed cost per unit will roll like it will start to decrease. So that's what we talked about when you're talking about fixed cost. While variable cost will increase proportionately with increase in activity level. That's total fixed cost, total variable cost rather. Total variable cost. Increase proportion with increase in activity level. While the other one was variable cost per unit will be constant. So we came up with a graph like this, for total being like this, while for variable cost per unit being like this, right? And the mixed cost, we just say that is a combination, right? Is a combination of both. Meaning that it won't start from zero, right? That's why the diagram was not starting from zero, where when the activity level was zero, it was like this. It is a combination of fixed and variable. So just a reminder. So for us to identify if it is a fixed cost, the total cost will be the same. For example, we have 600 here, 600 here. That means this is a fixed cost. So fixed cost. Assistant, 120, 120. Fixed cost. It's 11,000 here, 11 million here, 11 million 750. This can either be variable or mixed. We don't know yet. So we just mark. So the same as here, 3 million 100 and here 3 million 250. That can be variable or mixed. Here we see that depreciation has 1,180,000. Here 1,180,000. This is also fixed. So we have 1,680,000 and here 1,800,000. This can either be variable or mixed. We have 1.2 million, 1.2 million. This is fixed, and this is also fixed. So we can just categorize them. So we know all the fixed right here. So I can just highlight all the fixed cost. So this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So remaining with the others. So we need to know if it is a variable cost or not. So for us to know if it's a variable cost, it means that cost per unit will be the same. That means if I say, for example, laboratory, so lab, right? So you have 2,900 here, and here you have 2,250. So the lab cost was 11 million here. If I divide by 2.1, it should be the same as here, 11,750 divided by 2.1, because we said that variable cost per unit is the same. So when I say 11 million divide by 2,100, I'm finding that it's 5,238, right? Here, I'm finding that it's, so 11,750 divided by, I'm finding that it's, have you seen? They're not the same. Because they're not the same, this one is a mixed. If it was variable cost, this item would have been the same. So we have identified that this is mixed. We'll go to the second one, pharmacy. So we have 3,100 divided by 2.1, and we have 3,250. So when you do that, so 3,100 divided by, I'm finding 1476. Here I'm finding 1444. They are not even the same as well. That means this is also mixed. So one remaining with laundry. Let's try laundry. So laundry, we have 1680 over 2.1, and we have 1.8. So we're saying 1680 divided by 2.1, 800. We are finding 800 here, and here divided by 2, it's also 800. Because it is the same, variable cost per unit is the same, meaning this is viable. Now we have actually separated. So let's just mark them different colors. So variable, I'll put it in green. So this is my variable, and the two, I put them in yellow. So that's the separation. No, that's the classification. Now the second thing is the mixed one. They are telling us we should separate them between fixed and variable using high and low. So these two, laboratory and pharmacy, we need to separate them. So you remember, let's start with pharmacy, right? Pharmacy. Let's start with lab, rather. Lab. So we have high, then low, right? We start with activity, then cost. So which is the highest activity? We know that is 2.250. As in, activities are the patient days, right? And the lowest is 2.1. Let's look at the corresponding cost. We have 11 million and 11 million 750. Okay, and here we have 11 million. So let us now subtract. So when you subtract here, we have 750. When you subtract here, we have 150. So we'll say 750 divided by 150. So we find that 750,000 divided by 150 should give us 5,000. So it's 5,000 per unit. So we have found the variable part of it, right? Now let us look at the fixed part. For us to find the fixed, we'll use this formula. Total cost is equal to variable cost per unit times number of activity or the activity level plus fixed cost, right? So for us to find we can either use high or low, the total cost of high or low. So I'll use the low one, which is 11 million is equal to variable cost I find is 5,000. The activity level for the low was 2.1 plus fixed cost. So we have 5,000 times 2.1, finding 10,500,000 plus fixed cost is equal to 11 million. So we group them in like terms. So fixed cost for lab is basically 500,000. So 500,000 is the fixed cost for lab. We have separated them. Now let us go to pharmacy. Use the same high, low. Activity cost. So we know highest activity is 2.250 and lowest activity is 2.1. Let us look at the corresponding cost. So pharmacy, low we had 3.1 and this one 3.250. So 150 here, here also 150. So dividing, so we have 1,000 per unit as the variable cost per unit, right? So let us look at the fixed cost. We use the same formula. So I'll use this time around, I'll use the high. The total cost of fixed cost is 3,250,000. The variable cost per unit is 1,000. The activity level is 2.250 plus fixed cost. So when I multiply them, I should find 2,250,000. So 2,250,000 is equal to fixed cost. If you subtract them, you should find 1 million. So the fixed cost is 1 million. Even if you used low, you would have found 1 million. These are two. They were not supposed to be the same because I'm separating two different things. If you used low for pharmacy, you find 1 million. If you used high for lab, you would find 500. So we have separated them. So the other thing, that means we are done with this question. That means 10 marks gone. So let us look at question C. The administrator of the maternity wing has estimated that the center will average 200 2,000 patient days per month. If the wing is to operate on a non-profit organization, how much will it need to charge per day? So let us look at the cost, right, of operating 2,000 patient days. So we'll start with fixed cost because they do not change. We'll arrange them. While variable cost, we'll have to multiply them by the level of activity. So with fixed cost, let's just mark them there. So we have salaries, 600 is a fixed cost, 600,000. So you have assistant, 120. You have depreciation, you have admin, 1.2, and you have equipment hire, 3 million. So these are our fixed cost, but we have also separated the variable cost into fixed and variable. So we can also add the fixed element. So lab, we found that it was 500. and pharmacy, we found that it was lab was 500 and pharmacy was 1 million. Pharmacy was 1 million. So this one won't change, or they won't change. They won't respond to change in activity level. So this one won't change. So I'll add them. 600 plus 120 plus 1880 plus 12 plus 3 million plus 500 plus 1 million. The answer is 7,600. Now I'll go to variable cost. Yeah. So I have the first variable cost, which was directly. I found that one was a variable cost, which was the one laboratory. I found that laundry was a variable cost. I found that it was 800 per unit, right? After separating laboratory into fixed and variable, I found that 5,000 was the variable cost per unit. For lab and pharmacy, I found that it was, let me just check. I found that it was 1,000. So this is variable cost per unit. So if I add them together, I'll find 6,800. So this is per unit. So they have told us that they have estimated that they will produce what? They estimated 2,000 patient days rather. So if I was using the total cost, I would say total cost is equal to variable cost per unit 6,800. Number activity level 2,000. That's the estimate that way. Plus the fixed cost, which I found that is 7,600,000. So when I do that, so I'm saying so it's 13,623 plus 7,600,000. So we're saying 7,600,000. So the total cost will be 21,200,000. This is the total cost that it will require to operate 2,000 patient days. So the question is not requiring us to find the patient, the number of patient, the total fixed cost, but they are requiring us, if the wing is to operate as an profit organization, how much will it need to charge per patient day? So this is the cost that they require, right? If they're operating as a non-profit making, what it means that they just want to recover their cost. That means they won't make any profit. So if this is the cost, they'll just divide by total cost, divide by the activity levels, which is 2,000. So divide by 2,000, the answer is 10,000 per patient day. So this is the cost that they should charge if they are to operate as a non-profit making, because they won't add profit on top of it. So this is what they will have to charge. The question is asking us in D is, assuming that the wing average 2,500 patient days per month, how much would it need to charge per patient day for the wing to cover its cost? So it's saying for it to cover its cost. So now they're telling us, assuming that now they're 2,500, how much will they charge? So we know for us to find the total cost, we are saying that variable cost, right? We have found that the total variable cost when we added was 6,800. So 6,800 times now they have estimated the new activity level 2,500. While the fixed cost does not change, which is 7,600,000. So when I say that 2,500 times 6,800, I'm finding 17 million. When I add with I'm finding that the total cost is 24,600,000. So let us check how much they have to charge per patient day. So we'll divide by patient days that were estimated, which is 2.5, right? So divide by 2.5, they'll have to charge 9,840. So with 2,000 patient days, they're charging 10,600, while here they're charging 9,840 per patient day. Have you noticed that the charge has gone down? So the last question is asking us, explain why the charge per patient day decrease as the activity output increases. What's the reason for this decrease? Right? We're saying for 2,000, we're charging 10,600. For 2,500, we're charging 9,840. Why has it decreased instead of increasing? The reason is because of the fixed element part. You remember we talked about fixed cost per unit will go down when the activity level is increasing. So because of the fixed element part, right, the fixed cost per unit is going down. It's like they are sharing the cost. I told you, if I'm staying alone in a 2-bedroom house, I'm paying 100,000. A fixed cost per unit will be 100,000. If we are 2, it will be 50,000 per unit. 3, it will go down like that. So because of the element of the fixed cost, that's why it's what it is going down. But the element of variable cost wouldn't have made this to go down, because we talked about variable cost per unit being the same, constant. So that's why the cost, the total cost has gone down, because of the fixed cost element, right? Because they are now sharing or spreading the cost between a large number of people. So that's how you're supposed to approach a question like this. So thank you.